Episode 2 Revenant is here, and with that, a ton of sandbox changes. A few exotic armor pieces have received some major changes, and that is exactly what we're going over in this video. The TWID from this week outlined the changes such as Lucky Pants getting a rework for Hunters, Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap getting a buff for Titans, and Verity's Brow for the Warlocks getting a huge buff in PvE. So if you're looking for a recap on the changes that were made, stick it here because we're going through the TWID and discussing all of those changes. If you enjoyed this video or find it at all useful, go ahead and click that like button, get subscribed with notifications turned on, and consider becoming a channel member where you can get early access to all of my future content and other benefits such as member-only YouTube shorts, special permissions in the Discord server, and much, much more. Now let's go ahead and tackle all of these changes to the exotic armor in episode 2 Revenant. Like I said, I am reading this directly from the TWID. So starting off with the Hunter exotic changes, we've got Lucky Pants. Lucky Pants has been one of the more complicated exotic armor pieces, and the limitations were necessarily because of the maximum strength of this perk. Unfortunately, the high-end strength of Lucky Pants was causing constraints in terms of other PvE balancing. So we have decided to kill 2 hive moths with 1 shot and reduce the complexity while bringing down the maximum potency. To offset this, we have also added some new benefits to the exotic, which will be especially nice for our movement-focused hand cannon users who enjoy stompies, but wish they also improved airborne effectiveness and handling. So getting into the changes, it now provides movement bonuses, including increased slide distance and sprint speed when a hand cannon is equipped. Airborne effectiveness bonus is active whenever a hand cannon is equipped, not just when the illegally modded holster buff is active. No longer requires a hand cannon to be matched to the super damage type or kinetic to receive the PvE damage buff. Out of luck cooldown will only trigger if you reach 7 stacks of the PvE damage buff before swapping off the weapon or a time expires, and the maximum damage has been decreased from 600% to 450%. That there is a big nerf, you guys. 600 to 450, that is going to be a big nerf, so we'll see how that plays into the sandbox. Young Ahamkara's Spine, we wanted to take another swing at these to be better preserve their previous PvE gameplay while keeping a handle on their effectiveness in PvP. So the changes here are once again provides Trip Mine Grenade energy on ability hits instead of final blows, provides 33% grenade energy in PvE and 8% in PvP. So I'm looking at the Withering Blade with Prismatic and Trip Mine Grenades, or just the Fan Blades on solar builds. You're going to be able to get that 33% grenade energy buff per hit. Moving on to Blight Ranger. Blight Ranger is rooted in boosting Arc Staff Reflection, but it has primarily seen use for some niche tactics that lever its out-of-band orb of power generation. To make it more viable in the broader game without deviating from its fantasy, we've placed that behavior with elements from Raiju's Harness. Added the ability to cancel your Arc Staff super while equipped, damaging and blinding nearby enemies and granting a tier 4 arc weapon damage boost. Damage dealt by this effect scales based on the number of projectiles reflected prior to canceling. No longer creates orbs of power when reflecting projectiles with Arc Staff. Reflecting projectiles now instead directly refunds super energy, extending the duration of your super. So this will literally give you your super back while you're using it. The changes to Raiju Harness here are gonna hit me pretty personally, but Raiju's Harness, with almost all of its old behavior moved to Blight Ranger, we've rebuilt Raiju's Harness based on its lore tab to differentiate it from other Arc Staff exotics. It now enhances the Arc Super Gathering Storm, calling down lightning around the user when it is activated, as well as adding a neutral game source of super energy. Fully reworked behavior of this exotic trait, Mobius Conduit, inspired by its lore tab. Activating Gathering Storm calls down lightning on all nearby targets, jolting them while also amplifying allies, which is dope. The defeating arc debuff targets grants a small amount of Gathering Storm energy, so you're going to get some super back if you defeat a jolted target, which this is going to jolt them, then give you that super energy back, which is great. Relativism, which is the exotic class item for hunters. Prismatic hunters have access to lots of stacking melee damage bonuses, which all compound with each other, leading to some out-of-band melee damage, which is true. The Spirit of the Liar is absolutely insane if you pair it with Spirit of Synthoceps. It's crazy. And as I say that, Spirit of Syntheseps already provided a lower bonus. If you also have combination blow active in Revenant, it will provide that same lower bonus when the Stylus Executioner buff is active. That is a bummer. Spirit of Syntheseps reduces the melee damage bonus provided when both Bionic enhancements and Stylus Executioner are active by 50%. It's doing half the damage that it used to. And you know what? Honestly, I'm okay with that because it was busted. Like, I used it all the time and I get it's fun, but it was genuinely broken. I could one shot like yellow bar like mini bosses and stuff like that, obviously depending on the mini boss, but you could like one shot super powerful enemies with this. So I'm glad that they kind of pulled it back in line. I am gonna have to switch up one of my builds for this though, so glad that's in there. Moving on to the Titans, you guys. Honestly, Titans this season this episode are going to be absolutely mental with the changes to the way that stasis works now. Icefall Mantle. Icefall Mantle's core fantasy is all about becoming a vulnerable icy tank, which is true. We have reworked it to focus on that fantasy by making it all about providing and improving frost armor instead of providing stasis weapon damage. Okay. You now gain a stack of frost armor for rapid stasis final blows. Each time you gain a stack of frost armor from any source, you will heal for a small amount. Great. The unique class ability granted by Icefall Mantle now provides maximum stacks of frost armor instead of its custom overshield. Okay. You will also immediately heal for each stack that gets added. It no longer prevents sprinting or jumping abilities and now works when thruster is equipped. Dope. Class ability energy now begins to recharge immediately after using Icefall Mantle's class ability. The burst of stasis energy from the class ability now freezes combatants and slows players. So freezing PvE enemies and slowing PvP enemies. No longer provides bonus stasis weapon damage. Now requires a stasis super to be equipped to benefit from its exotic effects. Okay, so now you have to actually be using a stasis subclass and not a prismatic subclass. I wonder if it'll work with prismatic subclass. We'll have to do some testing on that. Cadmus Riz Lance Cap. We feel the exotic has had a fun gameplay loop that was a bit too restricted, so we are relaxing some of its requirements. Remove the stasis weapon requirement. Great. Now any final blow or rapid precision hits while behind a rally barricade and with a stasis super equipped will create a diamond lance near you, which is awesome. Directly hitting a powerful combatant with a diamond lance will now create 3 stasis crystals. Previously, only bosses and vehicles would create the additional stasis crystals. Okay, so you're getting a buff to how many crystals and what will actually spawn the crystals, which is dope. And then you can just get any kill or rapid precision hit and generate that diamond lance, which is great. Ursa Furiosa and Spirit of the Bear. Now that Unbreakable has been live for a bit, we feel these exotics could provide additional super energy for using it in PvE. However, the gains provided in PvP leading to players getting access to the super more quickly than we would like. So they increased the maximum super energy gain from Unbreakable in PvE from 15 to 20%, fixed an issue where you were gaining more super energy from Unbreakable in PvP than intended. Now provides a maximum of 10%. So a little bit of a nerf and a little bit of a buff for PvE and a nerf for PvE. Or not a nerf, just a fix, a general fix here. Curious of the Falling Star, which also got a very sick ornament. So if you guys haven't seen that, you should go to the store and check that out. We would like Curious to feel less required to make Thunder Crash viable, but also improve it to be more valuable across the whole of an activity. We are reducing its Thunder Crash damage multiplier, so a nerf there, but when it is combined with the buff to base Thunder Crash damage, the overall damage will remain the same. Oh, cool, so it's just a balance. They're lowering the multiplier, but keeping the Thunder Crash buffed damage overall in line with where it should be. We are also adding the ability for it to help generate super energy from Thunder Crash, as well as transitioning the exotic to provide damage resistance instead of an overshield to bring it better in line with the arc subclass. Okay, because overshields are more of a void thing. Melee final blows while amplified now grant super energy. Reduce the damage bonus from Curious to Thunder Crash from 2% to 1.55%, so a slight nerf there. That's the balance they were talking about. This keeps the overall damage similar to what it was previously. Replace the overshield after impact with damage resistance, 50% in PvE and 10% in PvP, which is pretty good here. Peacekeepers, an exotic that is only going to get better now that stasis is kind of the focus, as well as it is overload SMG, which is going to be awesome. So while Peacekeepers has been a presence in Crucible for some time, it never really felt like it had a real place in PvE content. We have given it characteristics that resemble Lucky Pants, but for some SMGs with a PvE damage bonus that escalates as you deal more damage. We've heard rumors it pairs nicely with a couple of exotic weapon buffs below. Dealing damage to combatants with an SMG increases SMG damage for a short time, maximum of 20 stacks, 100% bonus damage, lasts for 1 second, each hit adds a stack and refreshes the timer. So as you're doing damage with an SMG, you're going to be doing 100% more damage. So it's basically just doubling the damage, which is great. Mask of the Quiet One got some changes. We wanted to learn into the vampiric nature of this exotic by allowing it to grant access to the potent devour status effect in addition to its previous effects. So just adding on top of its already existing exotic traits. Rapid final blows and final blows while at critical health now grant devour, which is nuts. This effect requires a void super to be equipped, so you do have to be running a void super, but that's wild. All you have to do is get rapid final blows and final blows while critical health. Great change here. Stoicism. We felt that limiting Spirit of the Horn, Alpha Loopy, and Hoarfrost effects to only work with barricades didn't align with the goals of Prismatic as a way to break past the limits. So we are updating them to also work with Titan's Thruster ability. Spirit of the Horn. Activating Thruster leaves a ball of solar energy behind, exploding and applying Scorch to enemies caught in the blast. Great change there. Spirit of Alpha Loopy. Activating Thruster heals you and nearby allies. Also a great change. I love using Thruster. I don't really ever use barricades on my Titan, but this is definitely going to be a great change here. And then Spirit of Hoarfrost. Activating Thruster spawns a pair of stasis crystals. You get 2 stasis crystals on activating Thruster with Stoicism. Warlocks, you guys are getting some changes here. Balador's Wrathweavers, we are further enhancing this exotic support capabilities while tweaking it to allow the bonus super shatter damage to be more useful in a raid environment. So they want this to be more of a viable option for endgame activities. Adjusted the Hearts of Ice perk to increase the shatter damage of frozen targets by Shadebinder super projectiles by 100%, so it's getting a buff there regardless of who breaks them out. So no matter who breaks the frozen targets with that ability, everyone who breaks it or the person who casted it will get 100% damage buff. Added granting frost armor to your allies with Frost Pulse or Winter's Wrath grants you super energy. Ranges in potency based on how many allies it's granted to. So however many allies you give frost armor to with Frost Pulse or Winter's Wrath, you will be getting super energy back for those. And it increases based on how many allies you grant it to. Skull of Dire Ahamkara. To help you sling more Nova Bombs, we're giving a neutral game benefit to Skull of Dire Ahamkara that feels fitting for the Void Walker playstyle. Added weapon defeats while Devour is active grants super energy. Ranges from 1% to 4.5% depending on the targeted type defeated. So if you defeat a red board, it's gonna be around 1%. If you do something up to like a mini boss or a vehicle or whatever, it's gonna be about 4 to 5%. So good buff there, great buff. Sanguine Alchemy. Warlocks have some of the lowest exotic armor variety in PvP. And for a while, it has felt like we were missing a target marking exotic in the same realm as Knucklehead Radar and One-Eyed Mask. What better candidate to fulfill that role than the one that already used to do it, Sanguine Alchemy. We wanted to be careful to make sure that the target marking didn't feel unfair to fight in Crucible like it did in its original iteration, and we also wanted to make sure that it was in line with the soon-to-be upcoming post-nerf state of Knucklehead Radar. So to activate target marking, you must damage a target from within a rift is a huge asterisk there. So you have to be standing in a rift. I'm assuming Well of Radiance will also count, but rifts are going to be a lot more usable or needed to be used here. And the mark will fall off after 5 seconds compared to just look at them and get 7 seconds of marking from current Knucklehead Radar, which is, yeah, great adjustment there. It is a nerf, but also sort of a buff at the same time. But yeah, great change here. Now marks targets you damage while standing in a rift. You deal 10% extra damage from any source against marked targets, which is great. Now provides surge ×4 to weapons that match your super damage. So if you're using like a void subclass, you'll get, void surge and so on and so forth. Verity's Brow and Spirit of Verity. We are front loading more of the bonus grenade damage for this exotic to increase its potency, and even if you aren't able to build to full stacks, which is great, because I love Spirit of Verity, but it definitely was restricted in that aspect. The first stack of Death Throws now provides plus 40% grenade damage in PvE, up from 20, so it's doubling that. Each additional stack now provides plus 15% grenade damage, up to a maximum of plus 100% at 5 stacks. PvP bonus damage is unchanged, which it would be broken if they buffed it. So PvP is going to stay the same, but you're getting a massive buff in PvE here. Cenotaph Mask. We heard your feedback that hiding the target marker from your player wearing Cenotaph was confusing, and so now we are reverting that change. Damaging a vehicle, boss, or champion with a trace rifle will once again visually mark the target for the player using Cenotaph, which is good. Osmiomancy Gloves. Osmiomancy Gloves can feel frustrating to play against in PvP, as they can allow cold snap seekers to catch players in ways that feel unfair. We wanted to address that without adjusting the bonus grenade energy that they provided to keep their PvE viability intact. So they just reduced the increased seeker distance and speed by 50% in PvP, it sounds like, which is great. Speaker Sight. Last year up on the list, we pretty rapidly pulled the parachute on Speaker's Sight's orb generation in Crucible, as it made for some less favorable play patterns. After some iteration and internal play testing, we think we've landed in a spot where we can bring back the orb generation in Crucible without encouraging self-damage and stalling at the start of a match. 6 instances of healing a damaged ally in Crucible will spawn an orb of power. So if you heal 6 of your enemies, it'll spawn an orb of power for you and your teammates, so you guys can get your supers back pretty quick. Great for trials, and I do feel like this is a pretty decent change, so I'm glad that they went ahead and made that change for us. So there you go, there you have it. Those are all the exotic armor changes that are coming, or that are already here rather, in episode Revenant. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Are you guys excited about these? Some of these are great changes, honestly. Some of them really are decent changes that needed to be made. I know that the Young Ahamkar's spine change is fantastic for us hunters in PvE. The Cadmus Ridge, helmet for Titans, great changes there with not needing to have a, matching subclass to your weapon. The Peacekeepers change is great. And then Warlocks are also getting some major changes with Sanguine Alchemy, as well as the Ballador's Wrathweaver, so you guys can use that in a lot more activities. So if you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful and kind of gave you some insight on what was changed with the new exotics in this episode, please leave a like on the video. Go ahead and get subscribed and consider becoming a channel member, again, to get early access to all of my future content. And with all that being said, catch you guys in the next one's Guardian. Happy hunting.